This is Jamaica P, and I had fibroids. So, the first one, I want to say, from what I remember, I was at work, and I just kept having pelvic pain. And I was like, okay, I just thought maybe it was because of my cycle, because I've always had painful cycles. And it's just this one particular, I just decided to make an appointment. And I went to the doctor, and the doctor was like, I can't really see anything. I'm going to send you somewhere else. So I'm like, okay. So I had to do a sonogram. And she was like, okay. She didn't say anything. She was like, I'm going to send this to your doctor, and then he's going to let you know what's going on. But for what I see, I think you have one. So I was just like, okay. So doctor called me. He was like, yeah, you have one. We're going to have to get it removed. So I ended up having to go to a female gynecologist. And she explained to me, she was like, I see one that I'm very concerned about. She said, you have others, but they're, it's just something small. They minor, nothing to worry about. So I had to end up doing a myomectomy. I got that done, had that procedure, and it's one of those type of procedures that they took it out, and I was able to go back to work the next day. So I did. I went back to work, and I felt kind of, a little uneasy. So I'm just like, I'm going to just tough it out. Well, 3 years later, I started having a lot of issues. I could go to sleep, then I couldn't stay asleep. I had to get up probably every hour to go to the bathroom, like I had been drinking gallons of water throughout the night. And I'm just like, this is weird. But I ain't think anything else of it. So one particular day I was at the hospital, and I was relieving another coworker. And I'm standing there laughing and talking to her, and it felt like something inside just burst. Like something just said, pfft. And then I started feeling something go down my legs. So I'm like, okay, I didn't think anything of it, but I was like, hold on, let me go to the bathroom really quick. It was blood. I was bleeding. So, luckily I was at the hospital. The bathroom was filled with, pads, everything you need. So I was able to clean myself up and everything and kept working. But I was concerned because I'm just like, it wasn't time for my cycle. It wasn't time for it to come on. But then I'm like, the body's going to do what the body does. So I'm like, maybe it was. So I went back to the hospital the next day and talked to the same girl. She's letting me know what was going on. And it happened again. So I'm like, you know what? I'm not playing any games. So luckily I was able to reach out to my doctor while I was there and told him what was going on. So he brought me in. He was like, okay. He was like, I'm bringing you in. Come on in. Let's talk. So I told him what happened. I told him, I can't sleep at night. I'm like, in the daytime, I'm feeling dizzy, can barely walk. And I said I had to do a lot of walking at my job. So I'm like ready to pass out. And I said, but luckily I was able to catch myself. The dizzy spells, every 30 minutes probably, I had to keep going to the bathroom. And I'm like, this is out of control. So he talked to me. He was like, I'm going to send you back downstairs. Had to go get some x-rays and everything done. And come to find out, those 3 that the doctor wasn't concerned with grew. They were as big as, I think one was as big as an orange. A couple of them was big as golf balls. So they was like, you definitely have to have surgery. At that time, we about to get married and everything. And so I can't think of her name, but it was a nurse that I had talked to. And she had told my doctor, oh, she doesn't want to have a hysterectomy. And I'm just like, no, I said nothing about hysterectomy, but it was either have the hysterectomy or, do something or not do anything at all and keep having to go through what I had to go through. But they assumed because I said, I'm engaged at the time. She was like, well, she doesn't want to have a hysterectomy because they're trying to have kids. I'm like, who told you that? We not trying to have no more kids. So I had to explain it to my doctor, and my doctor was like, I thought that's what you said. Y'all wasn't trying to have any more kids. And I'm like, no, we're not. And I said, I think because I told her we was engaged, she just automatically assumed, they want more kids. So it was funny. But once they told me that I had to have a hysterectomy, I just started thinking like, maybe this will, end all my problems. But then it's like, not really. I've heard of people having hysterectomies. Most of the women in my family has had one. So I just thought, maybe it's genetics. Like, it's just my time to have it. But then I'm like, I'm still kind of young. So I'm like, oh my God, if I have a hysterectomy, then I'm immediately going to go into having hot flashes. And I'm already a hot natured person anyway. So I'm just like, oh my God, it's going to be 10 times worse. I'm not ready. So I had to go to another, OBGYN to have the procedure done. And she just kept saying, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And so I'm just like, looking at her, I'm like, why do you keep saying that? And she was like, I never thought that I would see you this soon. She said, I seriously didn't think that I would. So I'm just like, well, I don't know what to tell you, but I'm here. But I was just telling her, like, I'm just tired of not being able to sleep. Tired of the night sweats, tired of getting up, every few minutes to go to the bathroom. So the reason why I was going to the bathroom was because the fibroid was sitting on my bladder. She was just concerned. Now, like I said, I had to repeat the same thing to her too. And that's what she ended up telling me. I said, okay, so that makes sense to me. Cause I'm like, I drink water, I drink a lot, but, not to the point where it's like throughout the night I'm having to go as much as I was. So we ended up, well, I take it back. So once I felt, I knew I had to have a procedure, mentally, I was like, yes, like get rid of everything. We're not having no more kids. I'm not gonna miss nothing. But the other side of me was like, well, I still wanted to have that option. So like, if y'all were to remove it or whatever, then, and then later on down the line, if we decide, hey, we want to try for, a baby, I would still have that option. So it was more so like, so this is a guaranteed, we're not having no more kids. That's it. So, the day of the surgery, they take you to the triage and get you prepped and everything. And it was a nurse there and she kept looking at me and she was looking at the screen, because the screen had, your name, your birthday and all that. And she was like, you're very young to be having this procedure. And I just started laughing. I was just like, stuff happened. And then she just kept looking like she just couldn't believe it. So I'm like, okay, now she being weird. So when my doctor came to talk to me, let me know, what was going on, the nurse had asked her, like, why she's so young? Like, why, fibroids? Like, why does, black women get them so often and, at a rapid rate. And I was concerned myself because I said I did my own research. But I was really concerned about what, I was wondering what she was going to say. So she was like, it's really unclear. It's hereditary, it's genetics. She was saying this in, with the chemicals and stuff that we use, products that we use. So in the back of my head, I'm like, it's not genetic. I didn't believe it was genetic. I said, I even did the research that I did, and nobody said anything about genetics. But like I said, so most of my women family members had it. My mom, I said she went to do a partial, ended up having to do a total hysterectomy, which is what I had. I had a total hysterectomy, so I had my ovaries. Like, they took the fallopian tubes, they took everything out. So, we go, and I'm still nervous, but I'm like, I got to get back to me. I have to get back to sleeping. I have to get back to, just enjoying life and not having no kind of pain. So the procedure was successful. And I think that they wanted to keep me in the hospital a little longer, but she do not like the hospital. So, we come home and everything, and I'm like, okay. And I felt empty. But I was okay. And, we had a conversation, and I don't even remember what we were talking about. And it was like, all of a sudden, like, I started feeling hopeless. Like, I felt like, a failure. Like, I just felt just negative, just empty. And so I just started crying. I just busted out crying. But I'm like, I know how I am. So if I do feel down, or if I feel bad, I'm not going to cry. So I'm like, what in the world am I crying for? But it's like, you can't control it. You can't. At least I couldn't. So I'm just like, what in the world? I'm crying. And I mean, like, tears. And I'm just like, I don't understand it. So I was like, maybe this is like one of the effects. I don't know. Maybe it was one of the effects that they didn't tell me about. So, I had her number. And I called her. I left her a message. She called me back. And
her being who?
The doctor. So she was like, okay. She was like, you're feeling helpless and, hopeless. I understand. So she was like, I'm going to prescribe you with some medication. I don't even remember the name of the medication. But when I looked it up, it was for mental health.
You recognize you had fibroids early on. So the first bout that you had with the fibroid that you got removed initially, how old were you around the time?
I want to say I was 34.
So you were 34. What kind of job were you working?
Detention.
Okay. So with working in detention and corrections, you had to do a lot of movement, a lot of physical work, climbing stairs, sometimes breaking up fights. You were being very physical. So when you first mentioned about you going to the hospital, part of your position was being an armed officer. So you had to be a guard at some hospitals for certain people who are incarcerated. So let's go back to that moment where you felt that fibroid or whatever it was inside of you burst. That was the first set of fibroids, or that was the second instance?
First. So
prior to that, were you having the abnormal pains at night? Were they severe? Tell me about that part. Like, how did you recognize before they burst? Did you have any major symptoms? Any minor symptoms? You had a pretty decent quality of life?
Yeah.
But it was when it burst, that's when you realized, okay, something ain't right.
Well, like I said, like I just assumed, I'm like, maybe it's my cycle, but I'm just like, I've never had that happen. So I was unsure, but I'm just that type person. Like, I don't like going to the doctor. I'm not going to the hospital for like something small. But that never happened before. So, I'm like kind of weirded out by it. And I kept, checking. I'm like, okay, my cycle must be coming on. But I was like, it happened that one time. And after that, that was it.
But then you said the second day, you went to do the same duty to relieve another officer. The same situation. You felt another instance where it burst inside of you, and then another running of the blood.
Mm-hmm.
That was the red flag.
Yeah.
So when that happened, obviously you cleaned yourself up, but you called your doctor almost immediately to say something ain't right. So how did they find out? They did, you said, a sonogram?
Mm-hmm.
So when they told you that, hey, you have fibroids, they told you they're going to do a sonogram. They found it and sent you to another doctor.
Right.
Okay. So when the other doctor told you had that fibroid, what's the size of it? How big was it at the time?
She said it was the size of a golf ball.
Okay.
The first time.
The first time. And that one wasn't on your bladder, was it?
No. That one was actually because of the birth control I was on at the time, the IUD. She said that's the one that concerned her the most. She said because the reason why the fibroid, like, I guess the burst or whatever, she said it was because the fibroid had done rubbed up
against the IUD,
which caused, I guess it scarred or, so that was the cause of the burst.
Okay. So when they removed that one, that was it. So between that time and the second set of fibroids, how much time lapsed between then?
Over 2 years.
About 2 years, okay. And during a 2-year period, you thought everything was good until things weren't good.
Right.
Your quality of sleep obviously was nothing. You rarely got sleep. You were urinating every hour, almost on the hour overnight, so you didn't obviously get any sleep because of that. How was your movement? Were you walking painfully, or everything's painful? In your cycles, how long they last during this period?
You know what? Actually, when I called him the second time, my cycle had been going on for a month.
A month straight?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I didn't, and that concerned me, but it wasn't probably the first couple days, it was normal, but then it lightened up, but then it would come back
heavy,
and then it was lightening up. So I'm just like, that's really, strange. Mm-hmm. And it just had got to the point where going to work and I having to walk around, and it's like I had to stop and I had to just shake it off because I felt like I was just going to either pass out. Really couldn't even walk straight. I had these kind of like a dizzy spell. So stuff would be spinning, and sometimes I would have to catch the wall, or I'll just, whatever I'm doing, I'll stop what I'm doing and I'll just try to, I was like, pelvic pain was out of control.
Did they explain to you what caused the nausea and the dizziness? Did they explain how that happened and how it was attached to the fibroids?
No.
So that's something people should look out for. I think, now, mind you, I'm a male. Obviously, I don't have any fibroids, don't have that experience, but I want people to understand that these are some symptoms you might want to look out for. It can be subtle things like dizziness, nausea, lengthy menstrual cycles, anything over what's the normal period? 7 days, maybe, give or take. Anything more than that is a cause for, a phone call, obviously. So you have the dizzy spells. You had to catch the wall sometimes to keep your balance. What was your final straw in saying something's got to give? What was the moment you said, all right, I'm done suffering, I'm ready to get some relief?
The pain started becoming unbearable. God, even with just like little movements, just anything like around the house. I think it was some times where I was like, I'm laying back on my back and I could feel them moving around.
You felt them moving freely. They felt like they were what? How did that feel? I'm trying to understand and get
it. It was just balls. Like it felt like
I got
but it just I don't know. It's just balls. Like I laid back and I could just feel like I'm mashing my stomach, and I'm like, oh my God, like that's what it feels like.
Hardened lumps.
Yeah, it just felt like huge lumps. Even when the female gynecologist that I go to, I was like, this is crazy. I said, I never felt them before. And she was just in shock. Cause she was like, I shouldn't even be seeing you right now. And so she kept saying, she said, oh my God, I cannot believe that you really here. But she said, with everything that you're telling me, she said, I know you don't want to do it. She was like, but we got to do like the total hysterectomy. And I was just like, I just assumed a hysterectomy is a hysterectomy. What do you mean total? But it's, from what I researched, is different ones. So a total is just like everything gone.
Right.
So I was like, okay, I have to do something. I can't keep suffering. And I was like, not saying I ain't have mood swings, but I could feel like when I have an attitude for no reason. Or I don't want to be bothered with nobody because I'm just like, I'm in pain. I can tolerate it, but it was just to the point, it was like every day, all day. And it was messing, it was just disrupting my everyday life.
Quality of life.
Yeah. But I told her, and I love her. I've been with her for a long time. And she was like, she's like, I know you don't want to do it. And I was just like, I had my daughter. She's turning 18. Mm-hmm. And I said, I have some bonus children. So I said, I think I'm okay. I said, it's just the fact that it's either keep going through this pain and God knows what was going to happen, or go ahead and take care of it and just get back to normal.
Right.
My primary doctor, I was really upset with him because when I told him, my cycle has been going on for a month, and I was like, I know when it come on and when it's supposed to go off, but I was like telling him, and he's like, laughing.
That's a big no-no, big red flag.
First of all, I could have gave him some words because Lord knows they was getting ready to come out. Mm-hmm. But I was just like, you know what? I could report you too. Because I do go to Veteran Affairs. Veteran Affairs. They don't play that. So I could have did it. But then once he saw, the
severity.
Yeah, that, and he knew, like he just seen it in my face, like I'm not playing with you. Even if it was, and I thought, I was like, maybe I'm taking it wrong. Maybe he's not laughing at that, but I didn't say anything to make you laugh. So I was like, you know what? Yeah, let me just close, and once he saw, the results, what was it like? It wasn't even 8 o'clock. I'll never forget. It wasn't even 8 o'clock that morning. And he called and he was just like, I'm so sorry. Like you got to have that surgery.
Yeah.
I don't like getting put under. Lord knows I don't like being put under, but it was just one of those, it's either that or I might not be here. I don't know.
Well, I feel like this, while we're on this point, it's important, in my opinion. It's just my opinion. I'm no clinician, but I believe people should have doctors, physicians who are like them. And I'm not being sexist. I'm not being racist or anything at all. But I would rather somebody caring for me who looks like me. So as a black male, another black male doctor may take a colonoscopy, more serious because of our risk and our ethnicity. As for women, I would prefer a woman look at another woman because they can relate, especially if you're a black woman getting cared for by a black woman. If you're a white woman getting cared for by, I'm not being racist, but it's just what it is. You can relate, and I believe in my whole heart that they take these diagnoses very serious when it's people like them. They understand, they can relate. But when you are, was he a white male?
Yes.
A white male looking at a black woman who's talking about her pain and her discomfort, he's not going to understand that. Even if he studied it for 10, 15 years, he may have studied it, but having that empathy enough to not laugh and take it seriously the first time, it shouldn't take them looking at the results and saying, oh, you're serious. That's one part of the medical community that I don't like. And it's a huge problem, which is why a lot of people get misdiagnosed. A lot of people don't get diagnosed. A lot of people go through these different pains and things when they should have been diagnosed properly by somebody who really cared. So that's a huge red flag. So for anybody listening, it's important that you don't just settle with whoever they give you. You have options. You do have options. Even if you don't have insurance, you have options. You can go somewhere else. You can request somebody else. Even if you have people in your network, just find a way, get some recommendations, and figure out who works for you, who's going to care for you the way you need to be cared for. Doesn't make you racist. Doesn't make you sexist. It makes you somebody who cares about your own health. So seeing what she went through, it should be a lesson to you all that find somebody who's going to care for you. No matter what, no matter who gets upset about it, find somebody who's going to care for you, because if you don't, you may live a misdiagnosed life, and that can cost you your life. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're fine. So that was another thing too. Once I had found out about it, I had to wait a week before they actually did the procedure, and they wanted to run some more tests. And I ended up researching, and I remember they not me. They aren't black. And it wasn't me trying to be funny or anything, but I'm like, who else to go to who understands, who may have been through it or, whatever. So I was like, let me find a black doctor. And of course, it's a lot of doctors, but it's not that many black gynecologists. So I went to one, and she was she was concerned. What the treatment that I should have got the first time. And so I let her know, I was like, well, I'm just trying to avoid surgery. I just wanted to have a second opinion. So she was like, that's totally fine. They wanted to get some x-rays and everything. And I let her know, I'm like, well, it's funny. I said, because I had to go get some more x-rays done, like a couple of days after I had saw her. I said, because then another issue that I had was that they couldn't find my birth control. So I'm just like...
The IUD?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was like, I was like, it's in there.
Your IUD was missing? It was hidden behind a fibroid? Or was it...
Yeah, so I had to go, and they tried to find it. I promise you, I felt like I was in there a whole 24 hours. They couldn't find it. So in the back of my head, I'm like, well, if y'all can't find it through the sonogram, I can go get an x-ray. So that's what I ended up having to do. I think I was in there like maybe 5 minutes. And they ended up finding it. The fibroid, the IUD was covered by a fibroid, so they couldn't see it. And with the IUD, it has a string, and you're supposed to, go up there, make sure that it's, the string is in there. They couldn't find the string, so the string had got tangled up or whatever. So regardless, I wouldn't have been able to find it. So yeah.
So what was, okay, we're about to get real here. What was your intimacy like your quality of intimacy, sex, if we're being 100% PG-13, what was that like for you while you were enduring these fibroid issues?
To be honest,
Painful?
it was a little painful. A little painful. But it's like maybe before I even had the surgery, it got to the point like I just couldn't. I couldn't do it. I couldn't. Like, it was like.
So I'm thinking I'm doing something. It was just the fibroids. Okay. I'm thinking I'm over here like, you know what I'm saying?
Oh,
Put
no,
it down.
you good.
No, I'm playing.
You
but
good.
seriously, on a serious tip, that's another thing too, y'all. Like, look at the signs. I keep on going back to that. Look at the signs. The pain is there. And even like the things that give you joy, you still get pain out of it because the fibroids are just that damning. Your first set of fibroids, or your first fibroid that you had a couple years prior, you were pretty much asymptomatic to it. You didn't really have the major pains. No. And that's the thing about fibroids. I researched that they vary in sizes. They can go from the size of a seed of an apple to the size of a watermelon. And sometimes, depending on where they're placed, you may get more pain from the one that's small than the ones that are large. So, based on where they were, the second round of fibroids, based on where they were placed in your body, pain was just in all areas of life. Your quality of life was down to zero at that point. So,
and the crazy part, it was always my right side. Always the right side.
Did they explain why?
She was basically because of that's where the uterus, was.
Okay.
And I told her, I'm like, even when I was pregnant with Brooke, it always hurt. Like, I always had pain. That pain is
traumatic.
Yeah.
So when you went to get this procedure for your second set of fibroids, your final set, around what age were you? You said it was 2 years between you two, so about 36, almost 37.
I was 29. I'm
so silly.
I was 37.
37 going on 38. So here's another thing. Between the first set and the second set, these things, first of all, they were non-existent. But over the course of 2 years, they grew. Go ahead. Well,
that's what she was saying. And remember, she was showing us. So honestly, like in my head, well, it's like you think of balls. That's what it seemed like. But to actually see them, it looked like clouds. So she was like, yeah, you see it right here. And I'm like...
This is the first round or the second round?
The first time. So I'm just like, yeah. No, I didn't know what I was looking at. It just looked cloudy.
Right.
So, and it just looked kind of dark.
Yeah.
So she was just like, they're there. She was like, but they're not really concerning me.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, well, if they ain't supposed to be there, I want them all gone. But she was just concerned about that one because, I kept constantly bleeding because it was rubbing up against it.
Yeah.
So I was just like, okay. So when it happened again, I was like, why in the world? Like, what caused it? Like, I was just really concerned because back then, at least with me, nobody really talked about it. Like, all I heard was, such and such had to have a, little hysterectomy. And they're going to go on the, having hot flashes. That's what all I knew. Mm-hmm. So, the first time it didn't, I was concerned. But I was like, they got it. I'll be all right. Whatever. So, when it happened again, and it was just more severe to the point, like, headaches. Mm. Like, I felt like a certified pill popper for real because my headaches was so bad because the pain was so bad. And I'm pretty sure stress had a factor too. But it was just, I'm like, oh my God, they about to take them out. I'm about to go into hot flashes.
Menopause.
But menopause. But I was more concerned. I'm like, dang, like, I can't have sex no more. I'm not going to have, my feeling is gone. Like, it's going to be gone. So I'm like, oh my God, like, what I'm going to do? I can't fake it. But I was just like, they gotta go. And, you know, at that point in time, you know, when I was doing research, you know, I seen people talk, you know, it was like, people was like, you know, you could go through the holistic approach. And my doctor talked to me about that. She was like, I've heard of people doing it. She was like, you know, some people, it worked for them and they didn't even have to have the surgery. Some people tried it and it did absolutely nothing for them, so they just went ahead and proceeded. And I was just like, well, this is my first time I ever hearing about, you know, doing something holistic.
What is that? What would that entail of?
That she didn't explain, but from what I saw, people was taking, you know, medicine, herbs, teas, I want to say creams. I could be wrong, but they were, you know, drinking and everything. So I'm just like, I can drink tea. And I guess with the tea, it's supposed to make them shrink till they just completely gone. But I was like, I don't want to drink tea and still keep having these pains. And, you know, and it's stressful enough. I was like, not sleeping, because I can go to sleep. I couldn't stay asleep. So I was just like, I don't want to go through that. I just want to go ahead and just get rid of them. I'm tired. I don't want them no more. It's frustrating. I just want them gone. So when they explained to me, you have to have a total hysterectomy, and I was like, I mean, I know what total means, so that means everything gone. So, but she had a nurse, it was another nurse in there, and she was like, what it is, they're going to take everything, your tubes, your uterus, everything's going to be gone, but we're leaving your ovaries. So I'm like, okay. So, of course, you know how it's a gynecologist. They had pictures on the wall. So I immediately look at the door and, you know, it showed a little diagram. So I'm like, the way it looked is like the tubes is connected to the ovaries. So if you leaving my... I was like, what in the world? So now I'm like, I'm really about to look. But she was like, if we take everything, ovaries included, she said, just as soon as you get out this hospital, menopause is kicking in. She said, I will not do that to you. She said, we checked. I think they did another test just to make sure that my ovaries was, you know, fine. Like, they didn't see any kind of
irregularities.
Yeah. So they just wanted to double check and make sure wasn't nothing on it. So, and I passed the test. So she was like, I'm going to leave him. She said, because you don't, she said, trust me, you don't want to start menopause. She said, you're not even 40. And I was just like, okay. I'm just leaving me.
Yeah.
Ain't nothing I could do. They just there.
Yeah.
So, but like I said, my most concern was just getting rid of all those fibroids so I won't have to go through all that pain again and, you know, everything that came with it. So after the surgery, I felt different a little. I guess more so it's just probably a mental thing, but I just felt like, you know, they're not there anymore. I don't have to worry about birth control. I don't have to worry about getting pregnant. So I'm like, I'm good. I felt a little better. And I was really excited because I was out for 6 weeks.
Well, tell me this. So let's go back a little bit. When you first saw that, your first set of fibroids, and she pointed out that there were some that were there. They were very small, not areas of concern. So basically, this is a known study. About 80% of all women, they experience fibroidal issues. They have fibroids. They grow in their body, and a lot of them are asymptomatic. Like, a lot of them don't feel any pains, discomfort, irregularities in their life, irregularities. And they said the reason why that they don't, even though they're there, they don't operate on everybody. Imagine 80% of all women. Of the women who go through it. Imagine 80% of women come in to get them removed. That's a lot of people getting surgeries every day. So they don't touch them because if it's not bothering you or your quality of life, they don't do anything until it bothers your quality of life.
Yeah.
That's something I learned when we were talking to your doctor. And she had mentioned that at first they were no area of concern because they weren't bothering you like that. But it's not until they become uncomfortable that they actually operate on you. So you got the surgery the second time. They removed them. How big were they? How small were they? We could show a picture here. I'll put it in the description. You can click this photo in the description, and we'll show you the picture of the fibroids when it came out on the second round. And if you want to see it, they're there in the description.
Yeah, it was gross. But I mean, some of them was small, like some big grapes. One was even bigger. So it was disgusting. I was just like, I carried all of that around, and that's what was causing all this pain.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, okay, cool, it's done and over. But it was weird because, no lie, I think after I had the surgery, maybe a couple of days afterwards, for some reason on social media, people was talking about it. So I'm just like, that's really strange. And it was crazy because I'm like, everything, all the foolishness to be on social media. But with that particular topic, it was so many black women so many black women talking about it. And I was like, oh shit, I said, I want to read and see. And it was just like, everybody really just had their own take of how fibroids is caused. I've even, during my research, I even saw like it's more so women who do have fibroids is because, they done had babies before. Or they done been, was pregnant. So I'm like, okay. Because all the women in my family that had a hysterectomy, they got kids. I was like, okay, cool. But then it was one comment in particular, because I'm just like, in my head, I'm like, what have I done different? How did they grow? Because I'm sure them saying the 3 that she took out had to have been the same ones from before. So I'm just like, how do they grow? So I'm just thinking they just grow just throughout time, I assume. So this one comment in particular was like, it's chemicals, products that we use, like deodorant, stuff you put in your hair. But I was like, I don't put a lot of chemicals in my hair. And even at that time, I still didn't. And I'm like, the most that I've used, maybe, I wear wigs, quick wigs and stuff like that. So I'm like, okay, I doubt that even caused it. I said hair oil. I was like, I don't know. But this one lady had said it may be what you eat. So I'm like, y'all know I love food. So I'm like, I don't know. I said, I did believe. I said, I believe that. But what really, and it hurt me to my heart, she was like, chicken. I'm like, who?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
So I'm just like, because they inject stuff in chicken.
Yeah.
They inject dang near everything. And I kept reading, and they was just like, this is the reason why we should eat stuff that come from the earth and
plant-based,
whole foods, plant-based and everything. That's why we should, And I remember when I told my supervisor, because I didn't tell anybody that I did tell a couple people that I was going to be out, but I didn't tell them why. And I told my supervisor because I knew that she would, would be concerned. And it was a time where she would come see me, and I could hear her talking, and I just felt dizzy. Mm-hmm. And she just be like, you okay? We play around a lot, but I didn't want nobody to know. I didn't want nobody to be feeling sorry for me, anything. So I finally told her the day before I left for my 6-week vacation. And she was like, change your diet. And she is in top shape, everything. And I told her, she said, what are some things that you eat? I said, what don't I eat? Anything that's dead and cooked, I'm going to eat it. So we laughed about it, but she was just like, seriously, change her diet. And I don't know if she been through it. I don't even know how old she is. She looked good. And she was just like, them chicken wings you be eating, she said, cut it out. And I was like, I just can't do it. Because I love me some lemon pepper chicken wings. And she said, no, seriously. She said, put more, fruits and veggies. So when I saw those comments, I was just like, that's exactly what she was telling me. So I didn't stop eating the chicken wings. I said, eat chicken. Because in my head, I'm like, yeah, that happened, but I'm still going to enjoy life too. And I was like, y'all really don't even have a clear understanding as to why this is happening to black females at that. So I said, I'm just going to keep enjoying life. I done had the surgery. I can change my diet. I will. But I was like, I think now I eat a lot of green. We working out and everything. We doing better. So I'm like, hopefully that's the end of my fibroids. I pray it is. What was it, a couple of days ago? On Twitter was talking about fibroids. And it's a lady, I think it's XO Nicole. She talked about it. I think she has a product. She has a pill that you can take, with your, I guess, basically for your reproductive system. It's supposed to, make it better. And it was crazy because I said people was talking about it. So I shared my story. I didn't think, it's Twitter. I'm like, I barely get 2 likes on whatever I do post. My phone, no lie, Wednesday kept going off. So I'm like, what? And I forgot. I'm like, what in the world did I post? And it was about the fibroids. People that's not of color reached out to me and was like, well, I'm really, interested. Like, how do y'all get them? So the same thing that I'm telling y'all, I told them. And, some other people chimed in and was like, it's the products that we use. Sometimes it's things that we do, stuff that you drink. So it was, it was interesting. And I was just like, I just hope that any little pain in your stomach, just any little pain, period, please go see the doctor. Please go see him. Because had I not, I have no idea where I would be.
So, people are saying that, it can be your diet, whether it be animal-based or dairy-based products, the chemicals we put on our body, be it topical or things we ingest. It could be a lot of different things that cause it. Also, genetics. There's a lot of different factors they're trying to figure out, but there's no definite or definitive answer as to where they originate, how they come about. So that's something that the medical community has to figure out.
Yeah. But
until then, I do believe that having a more plant food, whole food based diet can cause it could actually alleviate a lot of health issues, not just fibroids, but different things you have going on in general. If you can give anybody advice, if they're experiencing anything, what's the first thing they should do if they're feeling like they might be experiencing fibroid issues? What's the first thing you would advise somebody to do?
Find a doctor. Do your research. Like I said, I did end up going to get a second opinion because I thought that he was being disrespectful by, laughing. But I felt like he didn't understand. You can have all the education in the world and you still don't know. And not saying that he made me feel uncomfortable because he's been my primary doctor for a while, but it was just more so, you can't tell me anything when you don't experience it. So that's why I would tell people, not saying switch your doctor. I mean, if you do, you do. But find somebody who you think would be more understanding.
when it comes to recovery after your second bout with the fibroids, what would you advise somebody to do to recover properly if they're by themselves? Because you, obviously, I was there with you from A to Z with that portion. But if somebody's by themselves, right, what's the best care advice you can give them for self-care or taking care of themselves for those few weeks?
Yeah, you was hand and foot. I know that, she told me, she was like, don't be walking up and down them stairs, don't do that. And I was just like, okay, trust me, you do not want to walk up and down them stairs.
So stay at a lower level if you can.
Yeah, I would say, if you do have somebody help you, if it's just you completely, just you, I would say, like, sleep on the couch.
By the kitchen and by a bathroom.
Buy a bathroom if you got one. Because I won't say that it wasn't like it was a breeze, but I still had a little discomfort. And because I had stitches, I most definitely didn't want to pop one because I did not want to see them people no more.
They entered you vaginally, or was it an incision on your belly, or how did that work?
So that was a good thing about it. I didn't have to, because that was another concern I had too. Because I know with my family members, they had to get cut on their stomach for them to get it out. Mine, they just had to go in there and get them out. So like she had to do the actual surgery in my vagina.
Okay.
So I don't have any scarring or anything.
Okay. So for people who are solo dolo and they are recovering by themselves, stay downstairs if you can. If you have a 2-story place or more, stay near a restroom, and if you can, do as little physical labor as you possibly can. Mm-hmm.
I'm hoping in the future they can, soon, I'm hoping that they could pinpoint what causes it, especially with black women. But again, if you feel weird, you just feel just not like yourself, go see the doctor, because you just never know. And like I said, I know I have a high tolerance of pain, but I would not want to have that pain that I had.
Y'all heard it here. We're going to leave links in the description below where we'll attach a few people that you can actually speak to for medical advice. We'll link some resources for you. We'll also have a picture of her fibroids post-op, and we want to make sure that you all have the best possible advice, from somebody who's been through it, not somebody who's speaking from theory, not somebody who doesn't look like you, but this is like straight from the woman's mouth. This is what it is, this is what it was, and this is how she overcame. So if you have any questions, comments, concerns, leave it in the comments. If you have any remarks of your own experience, leave it in the comments. We would love for you to share to any of your loved ones, especially your sisters, your aunts, your cousins, your friends, anybody that is young or even older and they are experiencing these abdominal pains. Make sure that you share with somebody, because somebody might need this. You never know who can help, who can free from that physical bondage. So make sure that you share this information, man. Like this, subscribe to the channel. This wasn't one of those funnier episodes, but you know what? It's much needed. A very necessary episode. So, that's what we have going on.
Y'all go get checked. I know that the doctor is like, oh, we only have to see you once every 2 to 3 years now. They do not control you, and you know your body the most. So, until next time, bye.